Aunt Helen. Miss Helen Slingsby was my maiden aunt, and lived in a small house near a fashionable square, cared for by servants to the number of 4. Now when she died, there was silence in heaven, and silence at her end of the street. The shutters were drawn, and the undertaker wiped his feet. He was aware that this sort of thing had occurred before. The dogs were handsomely provided for, but shortly afterwards the parrot died too. The Dresden clock continued ticking on the mantelpiece, and the footman sat upon the dining table, holding the second housemaid on his knees, who had always been so careful while her mistress lived. Cousin Nancy. Miss Nancy Ellicott strode across the hills and broke them, rode across the hills and broke them, the barren New England hills, riding to hounds over the cow pasture. Miss Nancy Ellicott smoked and danced all the modern dances, and her aunts were not quite sure how they felt about it, but they knew that it was modern. Upon the glazed shelves kept watch Matthew and Waldo, guardians of the faith, the army of unalterable law. Hysteria. As she laughed, I was aware of becoming involved in her laughter and being part of it, until her teeth were only accidental stars with a talent for squad drill. I was drawn in by short gasps, inhaled each momentary recovery, lost finally in the dark caverns of her throat, bruised by the ripple of unseen muscles. An elderly waiter, with trembling hands, was hurriedly spreading a pink and white checked cloth over the rusty green iron table, saying, "If the lady and gentleman wish to take their tea in the garden, if the lady and gentleman wish to take their tea in the garden." I decided that if the shaking of her breasts could be stopped, some of the fragments of the afternoon might be collected, and I concentrated my attention with careful subtlety to this end. The Boston Evening Transcript. The readers of the Boston Evening Transcript sway in the wind like a field of ripe corn. When evening quickens faintly in the street, wakening the appetites of life in some, and to others bringing the Boston Evening Transcript, I mount the steps and ring the bell, turning wearily as one would turn to nod goodbye to Rochefoucauld, if the street were time and he at the end of the street, and I say, "Cousin Harriet, here is the Boston Evening Transcript." La Figlia que Piange. Stand on the highest pavement of the stair, lean on a garden urn, weave the sunlight in your hair, clasp your flowers to you with a pained surprise, fling them to the ground and turn with a fugitive resentment in your eyes, but weave the sunlight in your hair. So I would have had him leave, so I would have had her stand and grieve, so he would have left as the soul leaves the body torn and bruised, as the mind deserts the body it has used. I should find some way incomparably light and deft, some way we both should understand, simple and faithless as a smile and shake of the hand. She turned away, but with the autumn weather compelled my imagination many days and many hours, her hair over her arms, and her arms full of flowers, and I wonder how they should have been together. I should have lost a gesture and a pose. Sometimes these cogitations still amaze the troubled midnight and the noon's repose.